and comments that you have in the chat box, which is located at the bottom middle of your screen. And we'll post any links to resources there, and you'll have an opportunity to ask questions at the end. So today we're delighted to have with us Pite Glenister, who's the chair of the Fund's Mental Health Subcommittee. Hi, Pete. Along with Joe Hastings from Help Musicians. Perhaps if you could all turn your cameras on, Joe, Anushka and Lynn, as I introduce you so that people know who's who. So Joe Hastings is from Help Musicians, who oversees the Music Minds Matter project. Anushka, who is the Bapam clinical lead for mental health, and Bapam is the British Association of Performing Arts Medicine. We have Lynn Maltman from Music Support, who project manages a number of different things, including the Thrive app, a very important tool and resource. And last, but really not least at all, Jack Williamson, who is the founder and CEO of Music&You. So first of all, I'll hand you over to Pete for a brief intro, and then we'll take it from there. Thank you very much. Over to you, Pete.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, just to reiterate Athena's welcome to everyone, and thank all our colleagues from partner organisations for coming along today. By way of introduction, I'd just like to say that over the past 7 years or so, we at PRS Members Fund have been focusing increasingly on the problems our members are facing with mental health issues. And previously our tendency was to be more focused on problems associated with physical illness and aging, falling off the end of the music business, if you like. But we are now very much more focused on helping with mental health issues and looking at ways of proactively promoting well-being in the musical community in general. The challenges of the pandemic and the bottlenecks that have been created with NHS provision obviously have heightened all these issues considerably over recent months. This clearly is and will continue to be, there will be great need out there. So we are very focused on increasingly interacting with our fellow charities, hence this webinar, amongst other things, particularly cooperating with Help Musicians, with the Music Minds Matter initiative and Bapam, just to make sure that together we can provide a joined up approach that can, provide mental health support for members in particular and the music community in general. Our intention is to fund PRS members who are in need and to help them to get the appropriate therapy without any huge delay. And this is a big problem with the NHS at the moment, obviously. The funding will start, we hope, when the pilot programs that Help Musicians are running at the moment develop into the full program. And we'll also be looking at ways, if we can help with the wellbeing support and emotional resilience programs, as they've been identified by respondents to their surveys as the areas they would like them to focus on. So we look forward to hearing more from our partners about where they are in all of this, and I'll pass you back to Athena to take us on.
Thanks very much, Pete. Thank you. Before I hand over to Joe, I thought it might just be really interesting just to have a quick whistle-stop tour of the different ways in which the fund provides support, which hopefully will be useful for those members that perhaps haven't contacted us before. I know that Ilaria, who's in the background helping with this webinar, has a slide to show. But basically, with regard to mental health, PRS members who've gone through an initial assessment with Music Minds Matter and Bapam and need therapeutic support can be 100% funded by us up to 12 sessions. We do have we're very aware that a lot of members can't access therapies through the NHS because of the delays that Pete mentioned. If, for example, someone hasn't gone down the Music Minds Matter route and is waiting for the NHS to provide therapy, you can also get directly in contact with us through our website, or even telephone us and we'll send you a form. If you're experiencing any physical health concerns, it doesn't necessarily have to be music related, like voice or hearing issue. You can actually access a free clinical health assessment with recommendations from treatment from Bapam, which the fund can then consider to look at a grant for that. Again, this is especially useful if there are delays in getting seen by the NHS and it's affecting your functioning. We offer financial support in the form of various grants, depending on individual circumstances and needs, and that can be a one-off or longer term. If, like so many at the moment, you find yourself at a crossroads or struggling to maintain sufficient income as a songwriter, we also offer career change coaching as an option to explore your skill set and potential additional sources of employment. We also have a housing scheme in a beautiful area of Dorset. It has 24 self-contained flats. We have some nomination rights there. It was set up specifically for those aged 55 plus who have a background in the creative industries. So if you find yourself within that age group and you're looking for somewhere else to live, then again, do get in contact with us. We have a winter heating scheme, which basically contributes to help PRS members who are unwell or living with a health condition to stay warm in the colder months. And information on all of this is available on our website. We have a partnership with Step Change, where members can access budgetary and personal debt advice, and also with Shelter for housing support. And the fund again is in a position to be able to provide help with deposits and upfront rent. And really, I think the strength of the fund is in considering each individual circumstances on its own merit and in a holistic way to support members to have a better and more sustainable situation if they are in dire circumstances. So without further ado, I'm going to hand you straight over to Joe, who will explain and go through some of the plans for Music Minds Matter. So thanks very much, Joe.
Thanks, Athena. Thank you everyone for joining. So yeah, as Athena said, I'm the head of Music Minds Matter at Help Musicians. Pete explained a little bit about the structure of the service, but I'll give you a bit more context for it in case you don't know. It's a 24/7 support service for anyone working in the music industry, so you can call at any time. And you'll immediately access support with a BACP accredited therapist, and they're on hand to provide in the moment crisis support, emotional support, and support you to make next steps, decisions around anything that you're finding difficult to manage. So as they mentioned, PRS members can access that service free. There are also specialist advisors who can offer practical advice across a range of issues, including debt, employment law, benefits, and housing as well. So you can call and access free support and advice around those elements. And the kind of the structure of it is such that actually it can accommodate as many people as need the support at any time. So we've seen a significant increase, as I'll mention later on, in terms of the people who are using the service. In terms of the kind of evolution of the service, it's we've done quite a lot of insights and research around the mental health support needs of people working in music, and in particular during this period where both ourselves and PRS have had hardship funds there to support people working in music. We've been able to gather quite a lot of kind of insights, looking at the particular difficulties that people are experiencing, and some kind of key highlight stats were that 87% of respondents to the most recent hardship survey said that their mental health had deteriorated since the start of the pandemic, which I think is understandable, but the scale is significant. And as a result of that, we've seen a 65% rise in requests for help through the Music Minds Matter service during the pandemic. So it's been a very busy period, and I think the structure of the service is there. It enables people to access support as and when they need it. So I think there'll be a link, so the numbers there if anyone wants to access it, or send it on to anyone that they work with or anyone who you think it might be appropriate for. And as a result, we're also looking at how we expand the service, as Athena briefly mentioned, looking at where we can widen the range of support options available, with the aim of improving the health and well-being of everyone working in the music industry. So alongside the current 24/7 dedicated mental health support line, we're in the process of developing the beginnings of a national network of local support groups. This is on the back of some other research we did over Christmas, which was looking at the kind of priority needs for people working in music around well-being. So the groups will be offering support in this first phase. The plan is to kind of develop out from here, but the groups will be offering support in three main areas. So the first is building mental resilience, and we have Jack is on the panel. We have Jack delivering 2 focus sessions on building mental resilience in the music industry over the next 2 months. And again, there'll be some more information to be shared on that. But these sessions are happening in May and June. And if you can access that if you're a performer, composer, sound engineer, anyone working in the sector, that it's there for you to use. And Jack, I'm sure Jack will kind of pick up on some of that in his section. The second area is peer support groups. So these are sessions that are focused on people who might have relatively high level needs, but probably don't need to access therapy, which again, Anushka is going to talk more about around the Bapam service. But the sessions are there. They're small, intimate groups where people who want to share some of the challenges, some of the difficulties that they've experienced, have a space to do that, and it's safe. They're led by accredited professionals, so BACB accredited professionals, and we're doing that. We're running that in partnership with an organisation called Tonic Rider. And then the third area is we're running some themed wellbeing sessions. They're focused on key themes, and a couple of examples are coping with low mood, dealing with self-doubt, and building confidence. And the plan is that that's a series of 6 sessions that people can sign up to. Again, I can send more links on, so you can look at when they're happening and when they're programmed for, but it's going to be in early July. And those sessions again are led by expert facilitators, and the kind of the scope of those sessions is to try and encourage people to engage with key subjects that people told us were particularly difficult, and that they were experiencing particular challenges with over the last 14 months. And then the other area of development with the Music Minds Matter service is we're in the very early stages, so I can't say too much, but we're looking to build a mental health signposting tool, which we'll do in partnership. It'll be kind of individually focused, so it'll be about the individual, and hopefully we'll speak to the individual based on what they're experiencing. And we're doing quite a lot of background work in trying to understand how the interface can connect with individuals around what they're experiencing. And it'll enable anyone in the sector to access advice, resources, and signposting to services. And it'll be, for us, it'll be a really important part of understanding the key mental health challenges that people are facing, and it'll influence what we do and where, because we'll have a lot more insights into what people are experiencing and where the particular challenges are. And as I mentioned at the beginning, we work. We're really collaborative as an organisation. We work with lots of different organisations, including PRS, Bapam, MITC, and Music Support and Music&You. We don't work on our own. Everything that we do, we try and build and engage with what's happening out there. So one example is the Thrive app, which we are promoting, and Lynn will talk much more about. It's something that Music Support have been doing some really good work on, and I think it's something that people should be aware is available. It's a really brilliant app, and sorry, I won't tread on Lynn's toes too much there. But the other key element of Music Minds Matter that I'll kind of hand over now, because I think it would be useful to hear from Anushka here. The other key element of the service, which is available to PRS members, is access to therapy. So access to the assessment and therapy. I'll hand over to Anushka so she can talk more about how Bapam deliver that as our clinical partner.
Thanks, Joe. Yeah, so just following on from the points that Joe's made, the helpline via MMM that offers kind of 24-hour support via therapists and counsellors is one route to access support. And then we also have the Bapam helpline, which is 9 to 5 and is staffed by not counsellors and therapists, but by our Bapam helpline team. And what happens if you call up through that number is you give brief details. We wouldn't ask you at that point to go into too much detail, but just to give us a brief understanding of your needs, and what kind of problems you're facing, what sort of support you think you might need. And at that point, you'd be booked in for a clinical assessment with one of our Bapam clinical assessors. So that might be one of our GPs, psychologists, or myself. So these assessments usually last around 1 hour, and during that assessment, we would ask a bit more information about your background, the difficulties you've been facing, what kind of support you might need, previous mental health problems. I mean, see, it's up to you how much you want to share with us, but I suppose the purpose of the clinical assessment is for us to get to know you and your needs better so that we can most appropriately match you with one of our therapists. And we understand that mental health is very complex, it's very nuanced, and for musicians and performing artists, it could range from anything from performance anxiety, generalized anxiety disorder, depression, or more acute and enduring mental health problems. So it's helpful for us to get a sense so we can then introduce you or match you with one of our therapists. And just say that all the therapists in the directory have an understanding of the music industry, performing arts industry, and you can state your preferences in terms of gender, cultural background, specific interests, a therapist that you would prefer to be matched with, and we'd always take that on board. So then the process during the clinical assessment is that the assessor fills out essentially a list of recommendations, make some notes, and then that form goes off to help musicians, and we await funding to be approved, and then we look into matching you with a therapist. The other thing is we understand that there might be waiting lists within the NHS for specialist assessments that you might need. So we always, if we feel that that's a recommendation during the clinical assessment, we'll always try to work with you to establish exactly what your needs are, so we can feed that back in our referral form. And I think one of the important things is prior to you having a clinical assessment. So when you have that first point of contact with the Bapam helpline, and give those basic details, you will be sent an introductory email, so you can get to know a bit more about the service and some fact sheets. So if you are experiencing an acute crisis, you know the various numbers to call in the moments where Bapam may not be available or the most frontline suitable organisation for you to get support with. So part of my role as a clinical mental health lead is to support those of you who have, say, more chronic and enduring mental health difficulties, who are maybe linked up with community mental health services, having acute crises whereby the NHS would be linked in or should be linked in with you. So what we ask during our assessments is that although information is completely confidential, will not be shared with third parties without anyone's consent. when it comes to kind of community professionals, GPs, NHS providers, we need to just make sure that we're working collaboratively in order to provide each of our patients the best possible tailor-made support. We wouldn't want to do anything that's conflicting with work that's taking place in the community, because that's also really important. But we do want to make sure that you are able to get support in the moment and via therapy, should you need it, and even whilst you wait for further more structured support through the NHS. So one thing that we usually, one of the things we recommend is a course of around 12 initial therapy sessions. Again, that's our recommendation, and once that's approved, when you're engaged in those sessions, if your therapist feels at the end of those sessions that you would benefit from continued psychotherapeutic support, what would happen at that stage is that they'd come back to us, and I would do a review assessment. So we'd have a chat about how those initial 12 sessions have gone. We would also talk about your PHQ, which is a personal health questionnaire, and GAD scores, general anxiety disorder. In they are questionnaires that are sent out in an email prior to your clinical assessment, and it just gives us an indication of where you're at and what your kind of levels of anxiety and depression are like, so that when you come into the assessment, we've got a rough idea already and can think about you know, your best pathway, whether that be through one of our Bapam therapists or a referral through the NHS. So yes, that is a bit about what we're offering. So it's mainly about the first point of contact through the Bapam helpline, where you'll be asked some brief details. Then you'll be booked in for a clinical assessment with one of our Bapam clinical assessors. That will last usually an hour, and then after that we source the funding and then allocate you to a therapist. And there might be people who come to us who have already got their own therapist who they've been engaged with for a particular period of time, and in those cases that's absolutely fine. What we'd do is we'd still book you in for an assessment, and our recommendation would then be for funding for an existing therapist if you're happy with that therapist and you don't want to change. And one of the things that we're quite cautious of is not recommending two types of therapy, for someone to have two types of therapy simultaneously, because it's, you know, we don't want things to conflict and we want you to be getting the best possible care. So we just ask that, providing the only therapist you're seeing, there's only one therapist you're seeing at one time, that's absolutely fine. At the end of your sessions, so could be 12, it could be further sessions if that's what's been agreed with your therapist and with us. We would hope that you could just review, tell us a bit about how your sessions have gone, what improvements you've made, and if there's anything we could offer you in the future. Yeah, I mean, Joe, I don't know if you've got anything specific to add to that, and if not, I can hand back to Athena.
No, that's great.
Okay.
Very, very comprehensive coverage, Anushka, of the process, and it sounds that at each stage there is that ongoing liaison, both with the clinician involved, but also with the person that is waiting for that therapeutic intervention. So if anyone's got any questions on that, please do put them in the chat, and we'll have an opportunity at the end to ask them. But that's great, thank you. I do now want to pass over to Lynn, if that's okay. The Thrive app that Joe has already mentioned, you know, we're also looking, I think the link to that is also on our website, but it would be great to hear from Lynn a little bit more about the ins and outs of the app and how it's being used across the industry at the moment. So over to you, Lynn, thank you.
Thanks, Athena, and thanks everybody for joining today. It's really great to see you all, and we're really honoured to be invited to be a part of this in such esteemed company. So yes, I'm Lynn, and I'm a project manager for music support, primarily working on the Thrive initiative, but on various other initiatives as well, such as our 5th birthday, which is coming up this year. And Ilaria has just magically, before I even asked her, has shared my screen. So yes, thanks very much, Ilaria. I hope you might need to go into full screen mode there if that's possible. Yeah, everybody can see that. Okay, I can see that, so I'm hoping that everybody else can as well. If you can't, just let us know in the chat. So yeah, if you just want to go through to the next slide, Ilaria, please. Thanks. So just a quick overview in case people aren't aware of music support. So we're a charity that helps those in the music and live events industry affected by mental ill health and or addiction. And I should say that that's everybody within the industry, whether you are an A-list artist through to a rising star, whether you're the person that does the AV, builds the set, does the catering, promotes the show, a roadie, crew, production, everybody. We're there for everyone in the industry. We have a number of main services. First off, our confidential helpline, and whenever my video was turned off there, you will have seen the telephone number there for our helpline. Again, it's run by trained medical health first aid staff who have personal or lived experience of working in the industry. That operates from 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, and is always there for you to call. We do mental health first aid training, which is fantastic. It has been kind of running the whole way through the pandemic as well. This is normally something that happens in the real world, but we've been running online training too, really popular, and it gives people the vital skills to protect the well-being of their colleagues and actually themselves as well. I did the training myself recently, and I learned a lot about how to support people, but it also gave me some really great tips as how to support myself as well. So that's brilliant. We have safe hubs at festivals. Some of you may have seen them or been to them before. Again, this was pre-pandemic, and hopefully as the world starts to open up again, we have volunteers and teams of medical mental health first aid trained professionals who will kind of set up areas backstage at festivals where artists and crew, again anybody, can kind of come. It's a very hectic atmosphere. Come and have a cup of tea and kind of escape the mayhem, maybe have a chat with somebody if they're feeling a bit anxious. So yeah, that's something that we're hoping to do again once the world opens up fully. And then the fourth thing that I want to talk to you about today is really excitingly, we have access to mental health wellbeing at Thrive. So Larry, if you want to go through the next slide for me, please. Thank you. So Joe did a bit of a job of doing this for me already, so thanks very much, Joe, for that. But yeah, we are really proud that thanks to funding, at the moment we're able to support our peers in the music and live events industries through the pandemic and beyond, as we're now starting to come out of the pandemic, with 1 year's free subscription to this really fantastic NHS approved wellbeing app. Thrive has over 100 hours of content and mental health tools to help you manage stress, anxiety and depression. And the one thing to say is that whilst Thrive, it can be really good for somebody who's kind of in immediate stress, it can also be a really great tool to kind of have in your toolbox for every day, so that you actually don't get to the point where you are in distress, just to help you kind of deal with everyday life, so that you don't really have to depend on it. There's so many highlights. Like I say, there's 100 hours of content, and there's something in there for everybody. The one thing that I would point out straight off is the live coaching. So it's a real game changer and a first of its kind in the mental health app world. It's whereby if you are in distress, or actually if you're worried about somebody else, you can kind of text and contact what is a trained coach or trained therapist, who will start a conversation with you via text and kind of help you through whatever the issue is you're dealing with. The response time at the moment says up to 10 minutes, but it's normally a lot quicker than that. It's normally within a couple of minutes. This operates between 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday to Friday. And Thrive recently told me that during the last year in lockdown, they've seen an increase of 329% in people using this. So it sort of shows you how valuable it is and how much people have been making use of it. And I should say that, again, as we all know, we've been working at home a lot, and it's maybe difficult to pick up the phone and physically speak to somebody because you might have other people in the house and you don't feel that you can do that. But this is a text service that you can text somebody, and if need be, you'll be pinpointed to further signposting, to further support. So that's really fantastic. Some of the other features, and again, I kind of suggest we'll go on and when we go to the next slide to tell you how you download Thrive, but the best thing to do is get in there, explore it, and kind of pick what works for you. You know, you may have a preference towards various features. Just to highlight some of the main ones here: CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. It's always a bit of a mouthful, and that's a way. It's really at the core of what Thrive do, and it's a way of helping you to change how you feel and how you view certain situations. There are 26 sessions to go through. They're each between 2 and 7 minutes, which actually makes them really manageable. And so just a really good way to introduce you to CBT and help you to kind of familiarize yourself with that and some of the techniques involved. Also, calm breathing, really simple, does what it says in the tin. It's to take a few moments out of your day, whether it's at the beginning or the end or both. And again, anywhere between 2 and 7 minutes where you just take a little bit of time out and focus on your breathing. You can be guided through that until you're comfortable enough doing yourself, in which case you can turn that feature off. And you can also choose to have music or some kind of ambience to sort of help get you in the mood and relax you through that. So that's fantastic. Then deep muscle relaxation. I really like this one. It's literally a case of tensing your muscles and then relaxing again. And again, you can be guided through this and you can choose some music or some ambience to sort of relax you and help you through that. This is proven to be really good for people trying to get some sleep. So this could be a good one to do at the end of the day. Again, different time periods. You can do a short session or a longer session. Meditation. You know, again, what it does on the tin, you're kind of guided through a program of meditation, which you can then, whenever you feel comfortable enough with it, you can do yourself. And then just another point to mention here that with the version of the app that we provide to yourselves, the music and events industry, there's further support at the touch of a button. So on the main homepage, you will find a music support logo at the very bottom. When you click on that, that will bring you through to other support services, which include ourselves. We also include Bapam, PRS Members Fund is in there, help musicians as well. It's just some really great facilities and support that you can reach out to if you need any further support. So Larry, if you just want to go through to the next slide. I'm sorry, what I should say there on that last slide is that the poster which you see is available. If you would like me to send that to you, if you want to share that with any of your colleagues or anybody else, then please let me know and you can send that out. So the call to action today, really simple. And again, I think Athena said that we'll share these slides with you afterwards. We're trying to reach as many people as possible. We really want to reach as much of the industry as we can because we realise that it's been a very, very tough year. And this is a free facility that we're able to give to you. So I've given you a couple of links here. First up, there's a link to a tutorial from Thrive, the experts, who probably do a better job of talking about the app than I do. But it's just a short demo that you can watch that kind of walks you through it again. You can share that with your colleagues. And then also our website is a great place. We have a Thrive landing page where you can go in. Again, some background to the app. We've also got a page of testimonials from people within the industry who have used it, so you can kind of see how they have benefited from it. And there's also a frequently asked questions page that you can kind of read through some of the kind of finer details of the app. So that's all really useful. And then again, please help us spread the word. It's there for you. It's there for your colleagues, for the industry, and we really want to help as many people as we can. Sorry, Pete's asking a question there. How do I get an access code? Pete, you may have heard us talking in the old days of access codes. We're actually not operating that system anymore, although I know help musicians are slightly different, but you just need to tick through. There's a download button on our website. If you use the link that I've given you here, musicsupport.org/Thrive-app, there's a download button. If you go into that, it will ask you to put in your email address and a password. And then you just have to click a tick down box to tell us what part of the industry you work within. And once you do that, you press submit and that will take you through to set up your free account. So hopefully that makes sense, but by all means, feel free to get in contact with me if for any reason that doesn't work, but it should. Larry, if you just want to go through to the next slide for me, thank you. And this is just a handful of testimonials. Again, we'll send this through to you. I'm not going to read through them. You'll find these on our website as well. It just shows you that, you know, we've had a lot of really, really great feedback. There's a lot of information in there, but like I said, you can kind of pick and choose what works best for you. You can set goals, reminders, and yeah, we're really pleased to say that a lot of people have really benefited from using it. So very keen for everybody to check it out, and please let us know what you think as well, and feel free to get in touch with me at any point. And if you've got any other questions, please feel free. Thanks.
Okay, great. Thanks, Lynn. I don't think there's any questions in the chat at the moment from anyone. So without further ado, we'll pass on to Jack. Jack Williamson, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you for the introduction, Athena, and thank you to everyone else. I feel like the wonderful Joe, the wonderful Anushka, the wonderful Lynn, the wonderful Athena. It's a hard act to follow you all amazing people who all do amazing work. So I'll try to live up to their amazing platforms and the amazing work that they do. But basically, so I'm from Music&You, and we are more of a service provider to the industry rather than an organization per se. So we work cross-collaboratively across the industry and partner, as Joe mentioned, in different areas to support artists and industry professionals, songwriters, producers, etc., in a myriad of ways. So we will work with help musicians, as Joe mentioned, to deliver webinars on building resilience. We've done the same previously with the wonderful guys at PRS, as Athena knows, and the wonderful Pete as well. We also work cross-collaboratively with Anushka and her wonderful team at Bapam. So we will work to deliver one-on-one sessions via the MOBO fund that they have, or the Do It Differently fund that they have, which also, again, cross-collaboratively works with help musicians. So we'll work in that space as well. Additionally to that, we work, again, in a cross-competency route. So we work not only on yesterday for a better today, but today for a better tomorrow. And through our collective, my focus has always been that we want to make sure that support is available to everyone, and it's inclusive as opposed to exclusive. So we make sure that within our remit, we have people from different genders, sexualities, ethnicities, religious backgrounds, because the work that we've seen historically has been very much through a Western world lens, through a white lens. And so we want to make sure that that's more and a heterosexist lens. So we want to make sure that people are accessing people that are more reflective of who they see in their life and in their world. So we work that way, and we work again with people like the BBC. We launched a project last month that went down really well, where we support artists as they navigate a career in music. We work with record labels and publishers to support staff and artists there. So we work, again, more of a preventative and ongoing support, and then signposts to the amazing people like Music Support, if you're looking at issues with addiction, or to the wonderful app that they're doing cross-collaboratively with Help Musicians, with the Thrive app that obviously you just had the wonderful Lynn guide us through. And again, we want to make sure that we're not doubling up on the work that other people are doing, working together collectively. So again, I'm keeping it short and sweet, but what I'll do is I'll put in a link. We have a lot of guides that we have on our website to help people with stress, anxiety, building mental health, your cup up, working on resilience, so on and so forth. And I've got my email there as well if anyone needs, and also a link that I'll put in for the webinar we'll be co-hosting with Joe's wonderful team at Music or Help Musicians next week.
Excellent. Thanks for all of those brilliant resources, Jack. That's really great. Just one thing to mention in terms of the PRS Members Fund. We do have eligibility criteria, which really is about you having been a PRS member for 7 years or have earned royalties of £500 and are affected by ill health, disability or other life crisis. And we know that the impact of COVID has been, really, really significant. So there is some flexibility around that at the moment, and our emergency relief fund was set up for just that. So I think if any of the participants here at the moment are not sure whether or not they can come to us for support, I would just say, please do get in touch with us. We would never turn you away without either signposting you elsewhere or offering you some advice and information. So I guess for this part of the session, if anyone actually has any questions for any of the presenters here today, then please feel free to unmute yourself and ask that question, or alternatively pose it in the chat. So I'll leave that over to you.
I'd like to ask a question. Is this service that we've told, this instant help and quick response, only for the UK?
That's an interesting question. I imagine that if certainly if you are a PRS member, then you would be able to access support from the PRS Members Fund based on your individual circumstances. With regard to accessing Music Minds Matter, for instance, I'm not sure, Joe, is that something that you're able to answer with regard to the service as it stands at the moment? Certainly if they are a PRS member and they were found that they were in need of a particular type of therapeutic support, I'm sure that the fund would consider that, definitely.
Yeah,
I'd be thinking, oh, sorry.
Good question.
You go, John.
No, I said I'd be thinking of roadies and such people as that, first of all, who tend to be international and live in different countries in touring, you know, the rigging staff and everything, that they're very often European. And I think of myself living in Germany as well. And it's just, it was not clear whether that was something that one could help promote internationally, or if it was a thing confined to the UK.
So it's slightly complicated because, as Athena mentioned, if you're a PRS member, there is distinct eligibility criteria there. For the kind of core service outside of that, it is for predominantly UK-based music professionals, and that's not because we don't acknowledge that a lot of people's careers are quite kind of, you know, people move around a lot and people have to work in different places at different times. But there are also organisations like the MITC and other organisations who offer therapeutic interventions who work internationally as well. So there are other organisations who we could probably signpost you to in terms of accessing support. There are also, I know, in Germany, some organisations who are offering mental health support for people based in Germany as well. And I'm happy to share some links there as well for you, John.
One thing I can add to that as well, John, because I know you were interested in Thrive as well, is that whilst we're kind of UK-based charity and sort of raising awareness of this around the UK, I do know of a few people who are in the US who have downloaded and who are using our UK version of the app. So it's possible.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, John. It was a good point. And if there is anything specific, then please just get in touch with us as well. Okay. Are there any other or comments from anyone in the audience? Is it all crystal clear? Okay. Right. I'm just going through the chat, just checking to see if there is anything.
I don't want to hog the show, but could I ask another question?
Please, feel free.
As this everything is based around music, is there anything, any activities that you know of that have to do with music as a therapy? Music therapy, something like Nordhoff, Robbins, or what I do, receptive sound therapy in the UK?
That's interesting because earlier, I can't remember, it was a couple of months ago, we actually, the PRS Members Fund, together with Bapam, Lucy Heyman, and her name escapes me at the moment. I think it might have been Melanie from the North London therapy group, did actually have a session on the role of music therapy in terms of managing things like creativity and loss of identity. Is that the kind of thing that you mean, John?
Yes, exactly. Now I'm thinking of maybe sort of killing more birds with one stone and doing something for the social positioning of composers and musicians, and saying what an important thing medicine music can be. And I was expecting to hear something about that, but it seems you're using standard therapy tools, and it is an excellent opportunity to actually introduce music as the therapy itself.
That's a really interesting point. And Joe, I don't know if in the survey there were any references that came up around the role of music therapy from the people that actually responded to the survey. Is that anything that you found in?
In the research we did 2 years ago on the Music Minds Matter service. We ran a well-being scale and questions specific to it was musicians and composers, and one of the key findings from it was that lives and careers could be quite difficult and challenging, and I think we probably all are aware of that at times, and obviously the last 14 months would show that that's got a lot worse, or it's been a lot more difficult. But actually people's satisfaction with their music and their work was very high. So there was kind of, you know, there was a real clash there of people really loving their and being really passionate about what they do and what they create, or how they support the creation of music, versus the reality of some of the lived experiences of the challenges of traveling a lot, and, you know, and working in difficult environments, working kind of antisocial hours. So it's not exactly what you were getting at, John, but I think that it probably does show on some level that the benefit of music to people who create and produce it and are part of the production of it.
It was actually Marion from the North London Music Therapy Centre that was involved in our webinar, John. So, you know, there was then an opportunity for people to hear about the work that she does. I mean, if you're interested, I can certainly send you the link to her website. That would be
lovely. I'm interested on many levels. You know, as you would get, the reformed alcoholics would usually be interested in helping people with drinks. I mean, I have a history of mental health and have been very healthy the last couple of years, and so I'm attracted to help people.
Sure.
And in my position in life now, I'm in the position where I can do it, and I get a lot of rewards out of it. Whereas I used to be interested in collecting money, I now get kicks out of this. So I'm very interested in collaborating with anybody on this, and I'm in touch with a number of people across the globe who are working on things that use sound and music for the benefit of mental health and well-being, and actually have an app, which I won't tell you what it's called because I don't want to look like I'm selling it, but there are other opportunities in actually using sound and music. And that was just my thought. I think if that would actually come into it, it has a bit more relevance than just standard treatments.
Very, very useful points, John. Very useful points, and I think you've given us all a lot to consider. So thank you very much indeed for your contribution to that. Thank you.
Thank you for listening.
Are there any other questions?
I'd just like to come back on that because
please,
as a long-standing musician and songwriter, I know that my work is my therapy, and I know that's true for many in the musical community. And it's particularly when that's blocked that problems can occur. And really, just to stress, you can't underestimate the value of music in people's, particularly musicians, and their mental well-being. I've always said that you have to be vaguely neurotic to be a musician in the first place, and it's part of the condition. Just to add anecdotally.
Yeah, good point. I guess in terms of NHS and clinical governance is, people like Marion, for example, at the North London Music Therapy Centre, do work quite closely in therapeutic contexts, especially, for example, with children that have disabilities. So, that's why I went back to the survey, Joe, just wondering whether or not that had been picked up as something that could be a legitimate tool, if you like, for people within the industry being able to access that kind of therapeutic support, as opposed, as John said, the more traditional CBT or psychodynamic counselling or peer support groups. I mean, I think it's not a one-size-fits-all approach to people's needs. So I think, from my point of view, John's raised a very interesting point that certainly wasn't in my thinking when thinking about mental health support for the music industry, as a standalone.
Yeah, I agree totally, Athena. And I think actually it'd be really interesting to see if there's been any any research in that area more broadly, because I think I remember reading an article a few years ago about some limited studies that were being done in the US, but it's a really fascinating area. And like I say, our information, we weren't focused on music therapy per se, but music as therapy and music as a positive, beneficial part of people's lives was something that came out unintentionally from the research. Actually, that wasn't our focus. So there's clearly a link there, I think, and I think Pete also summed that up as well.
So I would like to point you guys to some scientific studies that I have. If you could just tell me where I could send it to, because I know of things from the NHS funded, and in Germany where I am, we have had financial support for tests in hospitals. So there is stuff out there that points to the value, and I'm not talking just about the standard music therapy, but the use of like receptive sound therapy. Receptive being is that you can use it over an app, you can do self-help with it, and you don't need to have the threshold of having to go to a practitioner. So where should I send details for that information? I can put it on a Dropbox somewhere, or links.
John, you can email us at the fund, and we can disseminate that. I'm going to put it in the chat now, but we will be circulating a survey together with other resources, and all of our information, details of all the organisations involved will be there. But in case you need it right now, I've just put it in the chat box for you.
Great.
Okay. So thank you.
Thank you. And excuse me for hogging the show here. I realise that.
Not at all. It was a very interesting point. Thank you, John. Thank you.
Okay, my pleasure.
Is there any of our either our participants that would like to raise a question, or is there anyone from our panel that would like to make a point on anything that's been discussed so far? Okay, I'll take that as a resounding no. We're nearly coming to the end of our time together anyway, so I just want to thank all of our participants that took the time to be with us today to hear about some of the resources that are available. We are particularly focusing on songwriters and composers, but it obviously has relevance across the industry. And a very special thank you to Joe, to Lynn, to Jack, to Pete, and to Anushka for giving up your time to come together with the PRS Members Fund to basically share all the good work that I think collaboratively we're all doing together. So many thanks. And just to encourage everyone to check out our website, follow us on social media, give us a like if you're that way inclined, and let us know your feedback on the survey as to what more you'd like to hear from the fund or any other areas that we could possibly get involved with. So thank you very much indeed. And have a good rest of the day. It looks like the sun is desperately trying to come through. Thank you. Great. Thanks a lot, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
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 Well, it seems I'm still here.
Yeah, I'm just about to go. Bye, John. Take care.
All right. Lovely talking to you.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.